The fall of the Assad regime in December 2024 marked a turning point in Syria's tragic recent history. After years of brutal conflict, the country is finally poised for a new chapter. The path ahead will be arduous, fraught with challenges and uncertainties. Yet, the very act of imagining a future free from Assad's tyranny offers a glimmer of hope. Recognizing this pivotal moment, Citizens for a Secure and Safe America convened a symposium in Washington, D.C. This gathering brought together policymakers, experts, and members of the Syrian diaspora to discuss the country's future. The symposium explored critical questions about Syria's political transition, economic recovery, and the pursuit of justice. The task of rebuilding Syria is as daunting as it is urgent. The country's infrastructure lies in ruins, its economy is in shambles, and its social fabric is deeply frayed. Developing and implementing effective policies will be crucial for Syria's recovery. The international community must work together to provide financial assistance, technical expertise, and humanitarian aid. Reconstruction efforts must prioritize the needs of ordinary Syrians, ensuring that they have access to basic services, housing, and employment opportunities. Economic revitalization is essential for long-term stability. The lifting of sanctions, while contingent on progress towards a political solution, will be critical for attracting foreign investment and jump-starting growth. The United States, with its considerable economic clout, can play a leading role in this process. However, rebuilding Syria is not simply about bricks and mortar. It also requires addressing the root causes of the conflict, including systemic corruption, political exclusion, and human rights abuses. A key theme that emerged during the symposium was the intersection of a free and democratic Syria with U.S. national interests. A stable and prosperous Syria would not only benefit the Syrian people, but also enhance regional security and diminish the threat of extremism. The United States has a vested interest in supporting a political transition that leads to a government that is accountable to its people, respects human rights, and upholds the rule of law. Achieving this vision requires a long-term commitment from the United States and its allies. It will require sustained diplomatic engagement, economic assistance, and security cooperation. Ultimately, the success of Syria's recovery will depend on the ability of Syrians themselves to forge a new path forward, one based on dialogue, reconciliation, and a shared vision for the future. The symposium highlighted the crucial role of the U.S. Congress in shaping U.S. policy towards Syria. Several members of Congress expressed their unwavering support for the Syrian people and their aspirations for a democratic future. Congressman Joe Wilson, a longtime advocate for human rights, emphasized the need for accountability for the atrocities committed during the conflict. He stressed that justice is not only a moral imperative, but also essential for lasting peace. Senator Jeanne Shaheen echoed these sentiments, calling for a Syrian-led process of transitional justice that addresses the grievances of all communities. She also highlighted the plight of Syrian refugees and the need for continued humanitarian assistance. Senator James Risch, a senior member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, underscored the importance of a unified international response to the crisis. He emphasized the need for continued pressure on the Assad regime and its allies to end the violence and engage in a genuine political process. Representatives Seth Moulton, Nellie Pau, Raja Krishnamurthy, and Ro Khanna all spoke passionately about the need for the United States to prioritize the protection of civilians, support democratic reforms, and invest in Syria's long-term recovery. Their presence and pronouncements at the symposium reflected a growing bipartisan consensus in Congress on the need for a more robust and proactive U.S. role in supporting a peaceful and democratic transition in Syria. This congressional support will be crucial for securing the necessary funding and political will to advance U.S. interests in Syria. The pursuit of justice is paramount in the aftermath of any conflict, and Syria is no exception. The scale of atrocities committed during the war demands accountability. Transitional justice mechanisms, including truth commissions, reparations programs, and criminal prosecutions, are essential. However, the path to justice in Syria is fraught with complexities. The country's deeply divided society and the absence of a functioning judicial system pose significant challenges. Moreover, the involvement of multiple external actors in the conflict further complicates efforts to hold perpetrators accountable. Despite these challenges, the pursuit of justice must remain a central pillar of Syria's transition. A failure to address past crimes risks perpetuating cycles of violence and undermining efforts at reconciliation. The international community has a responsibility to support Syrian-led initiatives that promote accountability and justice. Equally important is the need to address the root causes of the conflict, including systemic discrimination, corruption, and impunity. Reconciliation and lasting peace in Syria will require more than just punishing perpetrators. It will require addressing the grievances of all communities, promoting dialogue, and fostering a shared sense of national identity. The process of healing from the wounds of the past will be long and arduous, but it is a necessary step towards building a more just and equitable future for all Syrians. The Syrian diaspora, scattered across the globe by conflict and displacement, represents a vital asset in Syria's rebuilding process. These individuals and families, though physically distant, remain deeply connected to their homeland. They possess valuable skills, expertise, and resources that can be harnessed for Syria's recovery. Recognizing this potential, the symposium highlighted the contributions of the Syrian American community in particular. Many Syrian Americans have already been actively engaged in providing humanitarian aid, supporting civil society organizations, and advocating for policy changes. Their knowledge of Syrian society, their professional networks, and their linguistic skills make them invaluable partners in reconstruction efforts. The symposium provided a platform for Syrian Americans to share their experiences, insights, and recommendations for U.S. policy towards Syria. Their voices, often marginalized in mainstream policy circles, were given prominence and weight. Participants emphasized the need for greater inclusion of diaspora communities in decision-making processes related to Syria's future. They called for increased funding for diaspora-led initiatives, streamlined procedures for remittances and investments, and greater recognition of their role as bridge builders between Syria and the international community. By tapping into the energy, expertise, and passion of the Syrian diaspora, the international community can amplify the impact of its efforts to rebuild a more peaceful and prosperous Syria. Citizens for a Secure and Safe America, or CSSA, the driving force behind the symposium, has consistently championed the rights and aspirations of the Syrian people. This grassroots organization, composed of concerned citizens from all walks of life, has worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the Syrian crisis, advocate for effective policy solutions, and provide a platform for Syrian voices to be heard. The symposium exemplified CSSA's commitment to amplifying Syrian voices. By bringing together policymakers, experts, and members of the Syrian diaspora, CSSA facilitated a much-needed dialogue on the future of Syria. The organization's efforts extend beyond this single event. CSSA regularly organizes educational events, engages with elected officials, and mobilizes its members to contact their representatives in support of policies that promote peace, justice, and human rights in Syria. CSSA's work is driven by the belief that a secure and prosperous future for Syria is not only in the best interests of the Syrian people, but also essential for regional stability and global security. The organization recognizes that the United States, as a global leader, has a moral obligation to support the Syrian people in their pursuit of a just and lasting peace. Through its advocacy and outreach, CSSA aims to ensure that the United States fulfills this obligation by pursuing policies that prioritize the protection of civilians, promote democratic values, and hold perpetrators of human rights abuses accountable. The American Coalition for Syria, or ACS, a key partner in organizing the symposium, plays a vital role in advocating for a free and democratic Syria. This umbrella organization brings together Syrian American individuals and groups from across the United States, providing a unified voice for the Syrian American community. ACS works tirelessly to educate policymakers, the media, and the public about the complexities of the Syrian crisis and the aspirations of the Syrian people. The organization advocates for policies that support a political transition in Syria, provide humanitarian assistance to those affected by the conflict, and hold the Assad regime accountable for its crimes against humanity. ACS also plays a crucial role in connecting Syrian Americans with their elected officials, empowering them to make their voices heard on Capitol Hill. The organization organizes meetings between Syrian Americans and members of Congress, facilitates letter-writing campaigns, and mobilizes its members to attend town halls and other public events. By providing a platform for Syrian Americans to engage in the political process, ACS ensures that the voices of those most affected by the Syrian conflict are heard in the halls of power. The organization's efforts are guided by the principles of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. ACS believes that a free and democratic Syria is not only essential for the well-being of the Syrian people, but also in the best interests of the United States and the international community. Through its advocacy, outreach, and community organizing, ACS continues to work towards a future where Syria is a stable, prosperous, and democratic nation. The symposium underscored the critical importance of international cooperation in resolving the Syrian crisis and supporting the country's long-term recovery. The conflict's multifaceted nature, with its intricate web of regional and international actors, necessitates a coordinated response from the global community. The United Nations, with its mandate for peace and security, plays a central role in facilitating this cooperation. The UN Security Council, despite its often fractious dynamics, has shown a renewed sense of unity on the Syrian issue since the fall of the Assad regime. This unity is essential for maintaining pressure on all parties to the conflict to abide by international law, respect human rights, and engage in a genuine political process. Beyond the UN, regional actors such as Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Iran also have a crucial role to play. Their influence over various Syrian factions and their vested interest in regional stability make them important stakeholders in the peace process. Effective international cooperation will require overcoming existing divisions, building trust among key actors, and establishing a shared vision for Syria's future. This vision must prioritize the needs and aspirations of the Syrian people, ensuring that they have a leading role in shaping their country's destiny. International cooperation is not limited to the political and security spheres. It is equally crucial in providing humanitarian assistance, supporting economic recovery, and promoting transitional justice. The scale of the humanitarian crisis in Syria demands a collective response, with all countries contributing their fair share of aid and resources. Similarly, rebuilding Syria's shattered infrastructure and revitalizing its economy will require significant financial investments and technical expertise from the international community. As Syria embarks on a new chapter, a sense of hope, fragile yet tangible, hangs in the air. The fall of the Assad regime, while only a first step, has opened up possibilities that seemed unthinkable just a year ago. The international community, galvanized by this historic moment, has a unique opportunity to help shape a more peaceful and prosperous future for Syria. However, the road ahead will be long and arduous, fraught with challenges and uncertainties. The scars of war run deep, and the legacy of violence and division will continue to cast a long shadow. Rebuilding trust, healing societal fractures, and establishing a functioning state will require sustained effort, patience, and unwavering commitment from all stakeholders. The threat of renewed violence remains a constant concern. Extremist groups, seeking to exploit the power vacuum, pose a serious threat to stability. Addressing their root causes, including poverty, marginalization, and lack of opportunity, will be crucial for preventing their resurgence. The success of Syria's transition hinges on the ability of Syrians themselves to overcome their differences, forge a shared vision for the future, and build a more inclusive and just society. The international community has a moral obligation to support them in this endeavor, providing not only material assistance but also the political will and solidarity needed for the long and difficult journey ahead. The symposium, with its focus on policy, justice, and recovery, served as a timely reminder that the world cannot afford to turn its back on Syria. The stakes are too high, not only for the Syrian people but also for regional stability and global security. As Syria navigates the uncharted waters of transition, the international community must remain engaged, committed, and hopeful that a brighter future is indeed within reach.